Hi everyone, I'm Cooper Johnson. I'm a voice user experience designer at Gridspace. And today I want to talk about using voice AI for human resources, specifically using Gridspace's virtual voice agent, Grace. And it may seem a little ironic to be using a virtual voice agent, which is a robot, in other words, for human resources purposes, but there are a lot of advantages to it. And the two big ones, I think, are that Grace is available 24/7. She doesn't need to sleep. So if someone wants to call an HR line, maybe to report something, they can do so after work hours, in the middle of the night, whenever the need arises, whenever they feel comfortable doing so. And the second is that if you're calling HR, you may have a very sensitive topic to discuss, and a lot of people feel very comfortable, more comfortable, speaking to a virtual voice agent about a sensitive topic, or at least bringing that topic up than they would with a human being, because the virtual voice agent is able to help and move through the process, direct the call to the right place, escalate the call, and move the employee towards a resolution. But it's also completely not judgmental because it's not a human being. Grace is always objective. Grace is always polite. So you get the best of both worlds, moving towards help, but not feeling the awkwardness of actually broaching a difficult subject with a human being, at least not at first. So Grace is really good at this kind of thing, and it's a nice way that a virtual voice agent can slot into the human resources process. So let's take a quick look at kind of one example use case for Grace in an HR setting. What I have open here is the playbook for a Grace virtual voice agent instance. The playbook is the definition of the task we give to Grace. So Grace will greet incoming callers by saying, "Hi, this is Grace from Human Resources for Harper Industries," whatever the name of the company is. "I'm your virtual team member." Identify that she is here to help with questions about work, safety, and correct procedures, and then moves into a phase where she's receptive to question and answer time. And one reason to set this up this way might be Grace is there just to catch any concerns that employees have. Maybe they just have something as simple as a question about policy, about casual Fridays or something. Grace can answer questions like that, but just is in Q&A format is very open to whatever the employee needs to do. And crucially, if the employee is calling about something that's not just a request for information, but maybe wants to report something that they don't feel safe about, Grace is able to escalate calls to something I've called a safety and standards hotline. If Grace hears certain trigger words, which we could expand as needed, she will jump to a little routine here where the employee has the option of being connected to this safety and standards hotline, which in this fictitious company scenario is where you could get help with something that requires an urgent response in the physical world. So in other words, Grace is able to escalate urgent concerns by transferring employees to the safety and standards hotline when that's the need that they have. So neat little use case, non-judgmental voice robot there to help and to either provide information or escalate the call to the right place to get a good resolution for the employee. So that's the playbook. Another critical component of this is the knowledge base. And the knowledge base is where we define what information we think is appropriate and necessary for Grace to have in this particular use case. And I've just included a handful of articles here about workplace topics, but there's really no limit to the amount of articles that we could give Grace, which would become information that we've effectively authorized her to speak on and to provide. I've chosen topics like security and building access, equal employment opportunity, illness policy, disability accommodation. If we give Grace information in the knowledge base, she will answer from the knowledge base on demand. In other words, responding to an employee question. And if the information is not in here, Grace will say something like, "I'm sorry, I don't have any information about that," or "I'm sorry, I've not authorized to speak on that topic," if that's what we've trained her to say. So very helpful and for answering employee questions, but also for really carefully controlling the kind of information that we want Grace to be able to exchange, which in sensitive environments like HR interactions is really, really helpful. So I think that's enough out of me. I want to give a little demo of this use case. You can see I've named this instance of Grace HR Assistant Grace. She knows her first name is Grace. She works for the fictitious company Harper Industries, and she is a virtual AR coordinator. maybe assistant. I don't know if she's made it to the coordinator level yet. We could change that though. So I'm going to call into this bot and play the part of an employee who has something they're uncomfortable that they want to report to HR.
Hi, this is Grace from Human Resources for Harper Industries. I'm your virtual team member. I'm here to help with questions you have about work safety and correct procedures. May I answer any questions for you?
So you work for human resources, but you're not a human being?
That's correct. I am not a human being. That's kind of ironic for human resources. That you can trust that I will never be judgmental and I'll always be objective. May I still answer any questions for you?
Well, our personal protective equipment that we get, I think it's routinely defective from one of the vendors. And my boss doesn't seem to be doing anything about that. But what should I do?
Sorry to hear that. Defective personal protective equipment is a serious issue. You can report it to our Safety and Standards hotline for immediate assistance.
You said there's a safety and standards hotline?
Our Safety and Standards hotline is part of what we call occupational justice. It lets you share any concerns, issues, questions, suggestions, or job-related ideas, and you can remain anonymous. Would you like me to transfer you to the Safety and Standards hotline now?
Yeah, I really don't feel safe until we get proper PPE, so I'd like to talk to the safety people.
All right, I'm transferring your call right now.
Okay, so that was a nice little example of use case where Grace is available to field employee questions or escalate employee needs to a higher authority. And I was concerned about defective personal protective equipment, and Grace escalated my call to the Safety and Standards hotline. So there are many other use cases or specific little niches which we could carve out for Grace within the sphere of human resources, but her constant availability and her completely unjudgmental persona as a non-human being is really what lets her shine in this kind of use case.